Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has talked about what might lead to, quote, benefits for the XRP community. And not exclusively necessarily the XRP community, because frankly, and although he did cite the XRP community, but frankly, this would be beneficial just for all participants in the world of crypto and blockchain, just generally speaking. And a lot of what he's getting at is thoughtful regulation, which is a topic that executives at Ripple have been talking about really a fair bit as of late at various public speaking occasions. And so there's a couple stories here from crypto media. The first I'm going to cover is from the Daily Hodl. And it's titled, Ripple Chief Bullish on Bitcoin Says XRP Needs Level Regulatory Playing Field in the U.S. And then here's another headline. Ripple CEO suggests Chinese President Xi Jinping could roll back Bitcoin. And it all comes from the same speaking engagement. But I just wanted to highlight at a minimum, a couple different headlines there. And then this got an interesting discussion going. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with Tony from Thinking Crypto. He ended up putting out a tweet just a little bit earlier today about, and it was a little bit critical of Ripple and the way that they're, how do you want to word it? Managing disbursement of XRP. And so, now mind you, Tony is very pro-Ripple, pro-XRP. And so what he was doing is just sharing a critical perspective. And he's clearly not a troll. I'm sure that many of you that listen to my channel listen to his. And so to be super duper clear, I encourage this type of thought. You know, we don't all always need to agree on everything. We shouldn't have to. I love diversity of thought. And so I appreciate that he shared his concern. And although I don't share that, he clearly is not being a troll. He's just sharing an opinion that's different than mine and probably different from that of most people in the XRP community. But I love it when people are just being honest and like, hey, here's what I actually think. And then we can have a thoughtful discussion about it. That should always be encouraged, because I'll tell you what, I'm thinking, like, if I ever have something where I'm super duper critical of Ripple or XRP, I would really appreciate it if everybody that's been listening to me for however long they've been listening to me would just be like, okay, well, explain to me why you feel that way. And then after I do that, if you disagree with me, we can still be friends. Like, that would be the dream scenario. If we can just all be adults in a nutshell, that's what I'm saying. But before we go any further, if you would please ever so delicately tap the like button, I would definitely appreciate it. And also, if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, you done came to the right spot, son. Go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambeau channel to join the echo chamber. Are my echoes getting better or worse? You guys have to let me know. I don't know. Shout out to XRP Crypto Wolf for sending one of these stories my way. It was the one about rolling back Bitcoin transactions, which is interesting enough. I'm going to start here, though, from the Daily Hodl piece. Ripple's chief executive, Brad Garlinghouse, says there isn't a level regulatory playing field in the U.S. between Bitcoin and its smaller counterparts like XRP. In a new interview during the virtual DC FinTech Week, Garlinghouse says that while he's bullish on Bitcoin, the odds are stacked against other crypto assets due to the current regulatory framework. The fact that Bitcoin is the most liquid digital asset is a good thing, and once you have that, that's helpful to the Bitcoin community. Look, by the way, as much as I get accused of being anti-Bitcoin, I own Bitcoin. I'm bullish on Bitcoin for sure. Did you hear that, guys? That is the CEO of Ripple again stating for the umpteenth millionth time, or you can just say umpteenth time, that'd be sufficient, that he is indeed pro-Bitcoin, okay? How many pro-Bitcoin people out there can say the same? Well, I'll tell you what, I am a pro-Bitcoin. I share my concerns. There are things that are reasonable to be skeptical about, but I'm pro-Bitcoin in the sense that I would like it to succeed. But how many pro-Bitcoin people out there can also say they're pro-XRP? Well, ideology gets in the way, but that's not happening here for Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, because he's a freaking adult, right? And then he said as follows, this is again Brad Garlinghouse, I think it's important to understand that those advantages that can start because of an uneven playing field, it's not just, oh, now we're on level playing field and it's going to reset to normal. The longer those advantages are in place, the more the competitive dynamics, the moats are created. I think that's hard to overcome. That's why China is looking at a very long, not just a decade out, but maybe a century out, and making sure that, look, these underlying technologies really are going to be the underpinnings of the Internet of Value. It's going to change the way transactions run across borders. Money movement works where Ripple is focused, but it's going to change how other transactions work as well. I think China is being very smart, very strategic by investing in this and by having a significant stake in it. I think it's going to be a challenge just to, arrive at, hey, the U.S. now has level playing field with these other technologies. I'm not just talking about how that benefits the XRP community, which, of course, I'm going to pause right there. It absolutely would. Then he stated, but others that are doing interesting things that are being responsible players and working with regulators. All we're asking for is that level playing field. Now, that could not be a more thoughtful, mature response to the recognizing the struggles that are being faced by players within the cryptocurrency blockchain world, right? And I don't think there's any problem with recognizing these things. And to the contrary, I just feel like many people that are Bitcoin maxis are putting their head in the sand and not being willing to recognize actual areas where there are still threats to Bitcoin, and that to me is bothersome because it's the opposite of an acknowledgement of reality. Can't you just be pro Bitcoin and say, oh yeah, here's a potential weak point, like we do see this, but it's also been around for a decade, there's lots of good reasons to think, hey, it's going to be here for a long time, but can't we just be grounded in reality? That's what I'd prefer. Anyway, the piece continues. Although China is investing $1.4 trillion in the tech industry, with blockchain at the top of the list and is testing its own digital asset, the country has also come hard against the trading of cryptocurrencies. As for Ripple, Garlinghouse says the chatter about Ripple moving out of the United States has its basis due to the lack of regulatory clarity. And here's another quote from Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO. I think it was last week or the week before, the Department of Justice put out a 70-plus page paper about some dynamics in crypto. In the document, it references 8 different groups within the United States government that have some sort of opinion about how crypto should be viewed, how the crypto should be regulated, the challenges for companies operating here in the United States. It's really hard to know. You can't have regulations that's a guessing game. We at Ripple take it very seriously. We take KYC requirements, BSA requirements, AML requirements very seriously. But when regulations is a guessing game and you have different parts of the government saying different things, that makes it really hard to operate here in the United States. And that's all interesting, and we've been talking a bit. I'm not going to delve into that concept further because I've been talking about it a fair bit, but it did pop up in the news here again today, so did want to make sure I mentioned it. But what about this one? Let's jump over to the You Today piece now, and I just want to cover really pretty much just the top part here. And again, this was from the same conversation. And here's a quote. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has floated the idea that Chinese President Xi Jinping could reorganize the Bitcoin blockchain if he were to lose a huge sum of money in the top cryptocurrency. And again, I'm about to read the quote, but I want to be clear, this is a genuine concern, and I don't see the Bitcoin maxi types being willing to address specifically this concern. It's just in terms of an actual government takeover of the Bitcoin blockchain, which is something that could have. I'm not saying it's even likely. I'm not saying that. But it's just it's one of those things where I use this phrase from time to time. It's like, don't assume something can't happen just because it hasn't happened yet. That's really bad. But here's the quote from Brad Garlinghouse. What happens if Premier Xi loses $1 million in Bitcoin? You don't think that the Chinese Communist Party has the opportunity to effect a change to the Bitcoin blockchain and make a reverse Premier's easy $1 million loss of Bitcoin that might have been hacked? And again, from a technological perspective, it's not even a question of whether or not that's possible. Now you're talking about what the likelihood of it is. Perfectly perfectly reasonable from my perspective here. Now, Garlinghouse once again started complaining about regulatory uncertainty in the U.S. Let me move a little bit further. Oh, okay. He noted China had been incredibly strategic when it comes to crypto and blockchain, and it expands far beyond its tribalizing central bank digital currency program. The Ripple executive further elaborates that we tend to gloss over the fact that Bitcoin mining is inherently centralized. And here's another quote from Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse. Bitcoin mining is 65 to 75% controlled by Chinese miners. And I think that it's hard to not argue that the Chinese Communist Party does not have an opportunity to control it. Yeah. It's just that's just an acknowledgement of reality here, right? And so jump into this now. Here's a tweet from Thinking Crypto. This is Tony, who runs the Thinking Crypto YouTube channel. And I know I said this a little bit earlier, but I want to emphasize this. What Tony did here is to be applauded. The fact that he has a legitimate concern and feels comfortable publicly stating it. Because he's got all sorts of people that are pro-Ripple and pro-XRP. And here's my stance. If somebody brings up a legitimate concern and it's pretty clear, and in this case it's super clear, that he's not some sort of Ripple or XRP troll, applaud this behavior. Please applaud this behavior. And instead of, and I didn't see a bunch of like terrible comments in response. I didn't read every single comment, but it looked by and large fine. But rather than getting emotional or venomous, which again, I didn't even see, thankfully, which that it did make me feel good, rather than going that route, just articulate a reason why his concerns don't make sense if you feel that way. Okay, I just want to be super clear that this is the position that I'm coming from. And so here's what Tony from Thinking Crypto wrote. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I have to keep it real. I'm bullish on both Bitcoin and XRP. However, when folks at Ripple state that China controls Bitcoin, do they not see they are throwing stones from a glass house when they control the majority of XRP? Ripple needs to disclose how they are distributing XRP, and they are they giving some to banks, IMF, etc., before they bash Bitcoin as being China controlled? And so, again, I appreciate that he's bringing a concern. I do not share that concern. I do not feel the same way, and so I will articulate my position on this. Which, there's a fair bit of things to say. First of all, what he's conflating a couple things, in my humble opinion. He's talking about effectively concentration of power over the Bitcoin blockchain and power over the XRP blockchain, which is typically just called the XRP ledger. It's the same damn thing, though. He's talking about those two things, but that's really comparing apples and oranges, frankly, because really what he actually compared there is Ripple statements about power-specific permissions over the Bitcoin blockchain versus Ripple having a concentration of XRP which does not offer special permissions. So those are two very different things. So like the question would be then, does somebody if somebody were to magically hold the same percentage of Bitcoin that exists today as Ripple holds out of total XRP in creation, would that allow them any sort of special permissions? And the answer is no. It's the miners that have the position. So it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you ever accumulate. You can talk about market manipulation, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about special permissions over the Bitcoin blockchain. And the answer is no. The answer is that it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you hold, you do not suddenly get special permissions, and that's also true of the XRP ledger. And so, in fact, last I checked, Ripple only control right at 16% of XRP validators, and so they have absolutely no special permissions over the ledger whatsoever. Now, if you want to have a separate conversation about what their holdings mean for other people like perhaps myself or you, if you hold XRP, what that might mean for us, that's a fine conversation to have. But even then, if people have a problem with it, in my humble opinion, it just doesn't make sense for them to hold XRP because the tokenomics have been clear. I'm talking about the token distribution model have been pretty damn clear from the beginning in terms of how much XRP Ripple holds, and including the founders of Ripple and the creators of XRP. These are known quantities, so there's been sufficient transparency there. And I would take it a step further. I would say that Ripple rather is the most transparent company in all of blockchain. How much ETH does the Ethereum Foundation hold? Can you answer me that? You can't, can you? How much XRP does Ripple hold? You can answer that, can't you? Yeah, they're a private company, and they'll probably be public at some point. That's a virtual certainty. But they're super duper transparent. Now, as far as what he's saying here, we want even more information. Well, again, I already cited this as apples to oranges, so that already invalidates the comparison. Like, the complaint is like, from my perspective, in that no longer valid if we're going to recognize the reality, which is these are not the same things that we're talking about, right? But just to go into this a little bit further here, as far as Ripple being transparent. Look, they have actual business relationships with partners. They've announced that they have over 350 actual business clients, with dozens of them utilizing on-demand liquidity. They have publicly stated that they are only selling XRP to strategic partners. So presumably that's only exchange partners. I don't know if there would be an exception to that, but it's only those types of partners here. They didn't even have to tell us that. But as far as who else is, the buyings and sellings of this and that, yeah, the XRP's ledger is public. You can try and track whatever you want to. But in terms of the sale of XRP from Ripple to any other company, they have the right to have private transactions, right? And so I understand the transactions are on the public blockchain of the XRP blockchain. Got it. But as far as the business goings on beyond that, we're not privy to that, and we shouldn't be. And again, that has nothing to do with permissions over the XRP ledger. So I'm just not concerned, frankly. And in going through the comments here, and so I'll say this before getting into the comments, I think that frankly, Tony just had this opinion. This was his initial reaction upon hearing Brad Garlinghouse's comments, and I think that he was missing key pieces of information that would be relevant in coming to the best possible conclusion based on all publicly available data. And so I think that he was just missing information that, had he had it, he probably wouldn't have stated that, hey, here's my opinion. But moving on, so Martin Valk, he said effectively the same thing here. I do believe you are mistaken. Power isn't decided by the amount of XRP held. Absolutely true. Then he writes, unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, where one miner could have 51% of the hashing power, each Ripple validator only has one vote in support of an exchange or ordering a transaction. And then you can see here's a tweet from XRP You Amaze Me, who wrote, Tony, I listened to every video of yours, crushing it. Keep up the great work, pal. To your point, do they control the majority of XRP? Really? Truly? We have no evidence they do/don't control it. We know they control the escrow only. Truly, none of us know. Here's the thing, though. Do they control the majority of XRP? Well, they hold a ton of XRP. That's not really the question, though. But again, it gets back to, does that give them any special permissions? No. Can they print more XRP, for example? No. Can they freeze transactions? No. They can't do anything. It gives no special permissions. But Thinking Crypto, Tony wrote, but that's my point. They have a lot of ambiguity. From the outside appears they control majority of it. They have not disclosed how XRP is distributed, so when they attack Bitcoin as China-controlled, it looks hypocritical. And again, they're not the same thing. I respectfully disagree. Anders L. wrote the following, apples and pears. What they mean is that miners colluding could do a reverse transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain. Ripple only controls 17% of validators on the DUNL, and they can't do a reverse transaction. Holdings doesn't matter for who control the network, it's the validators. And you can see that tweet right there from just a few hours ago got 55 hearts. So I think that the majority of the people that are going through and trying to get to the heart of this understand that Ripple does not have any special permissions. But it's a fun topic of conversation. So like I said, perfectly reasonable to bring up any concerns ever. I strongly encourage it. And anytime you come across something like that in your Twitter feed, just provide thoughtful responses. If you get the gist somebody's being a troll, okay, then stop talking to them if you want to. But other than that, this needs to be encouraged. I want my ideas heavily tested because I'm invested in XRP, and that actually matters to me. But that is it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.